Okay,
Just the amendment.
so just the amendment that they passed yesterday. So if you remember when we talked about the unemployment provisions in S62 a couple days ago, Senator Clarkson brought up the point that the language in Section 6, which is the 2020 experience rating relief language, was internally inconsistent, which was a good point. And in conversations that followed with the Department of Labor, it became clear that what they had been asking for was different than what the language was providing. So the House took the issue back up yesterday, and they amended that section. And do you all have a copy of the section in front of you? I sent it to Nathan this morning.
We can pull
It's
it up.
on our website. Absolutely.
Yes.
We have it right on our website.
Great. So the big changes start on page 2. Rather than going through them line by line, I'll explain what they did and at a higher level, and then we can get into specifics if necessary. So,
Okay. So it's
what-
draft 1.1.
Yep.
And it's where do we start?
Start on page 2.
Is
So you'll
that-
see on.
Is everybody
Damien,
there?
I'm sorry, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Can either Nathan or Damien or you send Marcotte the most recent language on 159? I'm just getting a text from the House.
I did. I
Oh,
said
when did you do that, Michael?
probably within the last 10 minutes.
Okay, great, super. Then the Speaker's office is delayed. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So if you look on page 2, you'll see that the reasons for relief, for COVID-related relief from unemployment charges that we added last year have been struck through. The reason for this is that experience rating relief under the new section will go to all employers for 2020, except under some very specific COVID-related circumstances that we were trying to protect against in last year's Act 91. So if you go to page 3, subdivision B at the top of page 3 provides that an employer shall be relieved of charges for benefits paid during calendar year 2020. Oh, shoot. There's actually,
It better be.
there is a
better be
typo in there that needs to be changed before the floor. It shouldn't say in relation to a COVID-19 related separation from employment.
Is this a Scribner's error, I hope? It doesn't have to go back to the House, does it?
It should be
Well,
a Scrivener's error that they
well,
can take care of. They
haven't-
haven't voted it on the floor yet. So,
Okay.
Oh, no, actually, this is okay. An individual shall be relieved of charges for benefits. So if you look on page 1, I'm sorry. Page 2, excuse me. It says, except as otherwise provided. I just was in the wrong place in my head. Except as otherwise provided pursuant to subdivision B, an employer shall be relieved of charges for benefits paid to an individual during calendar year 2020. That's the key portion here. Subdivision B says an employer shall be relieved of charges for benefits paid during calendar year 2020 in relation to a COVID-19 related separation from employment. So these are the COVID related reasons. And then the key language here is in 7 through 10, unless the commissioner determines that the COVID related reason no longer exists and the employer has failed to rehire or offer to rehire the individual without good cause. So this is that protection that we had in Act 91 last year to prevent people from utilizing COVID-19 as an excuse to, for want of a better word, clean house or lay off a swath of employees that they were, and then get experience rating relief using COVID-19 as the excuse. And so basically, if the commissioner has cause to believe or receives an allegation or information indicating that an employer may not be entitled to relief from charges because of that, the commissioner is required to examine the employer's records and documents and determine if they're actually entitled to relief.
So
So
this section seems to be limited to COVID-related separations. What if you had a non-COVID separation?
that's covered by subdivision A above, where it says, except as otherwise provided pursuant to subdivision B. And then an employer shall be relieved of charges for benefits on lines 3 and 4 paid to an individual. And then if you skip all the way past the strike through to line 20,
Okay.
it says during calendar year 2020. So that covers employers in general. And then the more specific COVID-related language is in subdivision B. It's probably not the most artfully drafted language ever, but I was trying to fit it into the existing construct.
Okay.
So that's what it does in short. The COVID-related reasons for employment are now added below in subdivision C, where we've struck out the language allowing the commissioner to extend the relief beyond 8 weeks because we're extending it to all of calendar year 2020. And instead we're replacing that by defining what a COVID-19 related separation from employment is. And it's all of the reasons we had for employer relief from COVID-19 related separations.
Okay.
So that language has just been moved, and that's it for the section.
Okay. So that's
Thank
the
you.
whole
Sorry,
amendment?
Just a news bulletin. Becca has had to go up to run the Senate floor because the LG's gone home sick with her second COVID shot.
Okay.
So hopefully we can leave the vote count out open so she can join.
Okay.
Okay. So she has to, and she said, we can all stay put. They have plenty to make the session work.
I just want to say tongue in cheek for all the committee members and the public that's watching. It's getting really annoying to have 3 members of leadership on my committee. I'm not hearing anybody laughing.
I'm laughing because I know we have today, the last 3 days have been a real challenge in that regard. And so we appreciate what you
I'm just teasing. I love you all. Okay. So are we done with this one? Does anybody have any questions, or is there more here, Damien? I think we get the gist of it.
That's it.
I did ask you a question earlier when you were explaining it to me, whether there's going to be major adverse impact on good employers here by this relief. And you sort of assured me that that was pretty unlikely.
Yeah, it is. There is a possibility that an employer who had bad years in terms of layoffs or UI benefits paid out in 2018 and 2019, but didn't have any paid out in 2020, might experience a small adverse impact. But in general, employers should stay in the rate class that they were in 2020 and 2021 with this change. And it prevents employers who had a non-COVID layoff, but then paid out more benefits than usual because of COVID from having an adverse impact, which the underlying language could have caused that in some instances. So,
okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm not hearing any objections or questions. So why don't we move on to David Hall, and we'll do the remote worker piece first that I just got a copy of. Like I said, I don't know where it is on the floor in the house, but I think it was on for second reading today.
Yeah.
We have a new version of I think both the remote relocated worker bill based upon the negotiations we had last night, and also included in there, I think, is the CTE section, which I don't think has changed. So David Hall, please take it away.
Sure. Senator Clarkson, did you have a question about this one?
No, just, I hadn't realized Marcotte's amendment was so narrow. But there we are. It's fine. It's good. I had thought it was, anyway. So David, you were going to go to your draft. Is it on the website? It's not draft 2.1. It must be draft something else.
Well, so if you want to look at S62 and what the most current House language is, it's actually a substitute amendment for Representative Marcotte's amendment that is on the calendar, because this makes the changes to remote worker and moves the money about adult CTE to the budget. And then it includes the underlying UI amendment that Marcotte was offering. So there's two instances of amendment. I just emailed this to the committee. It's on the screen. Most of this should look familiar because of the way it was always structured. We still have the same payments and the same terminology. We still have the agency implementing the program and reporting on it annually. The qualifying expenses are actual cost for relocation, and that's the Senate language as it's always been. As to this piece, obviously the broadband / co-working space language is not in here. For relocating employee, the construct is such that, you know, you've got to check an A box plus the B box and the C box, right? So if you're A1, you are a relocating employee, and that means you're becoming a full-time resident. You're becoming a full-time employee at a Vermont location. You are in one of the occupations with the most openings, and you have the employer attestation that you couldn't fill that position after a reasonable effort. That's all pegged to July the 1st.
David, should that be a 2 instead of a 1 on after February 1st?
Yes, should be.
Too little I?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's either 1 or 2, and this is pegged to February 1st. You become a full-time resident and you're a full-time employee of an out-of-state business performing the majority of your employment duties from a home office or a co-working space in this state. So you're a remote worker. Under B, the wage threshold of the livable wage applies to every worker, as does the requirement that you have to be subject to Vermont income tax.
Okay. The attestation. We don't have to do that because this would be an out-of-state employer, right?
Right.
Okay. And okay. Got it. Okay.
So then there's a new section 2A. And so this takes money that's in the budget, a total of $650,000. Right. Yep. And allocates it so that 480 goes to new relocating employees who check the 1 box. 130,000 is set aside for the remote worker box. under 3 here, 40, not more than 40 would be transferred to DFR for the amount required to hire a consultant to do the study in section 2B. And then if there's money on top of that that's not spent for that purpose, it gets divided evenly between the new worker box and the remote worker box. Does that sound consistent with your understanding?
We were trying to cap it at 25, but this probably will work. You know, just have to watch the consultant and make sure they don't spend too much money on a report for a small program. So I'm not gonna argue. I wish they had shown it to us before they did it. I don't know if they've done it already, but when I first read it and saw that the 650 was now down to 610, I was a little concerned, but now I see that the 610 could climb some if we don't spend excessively on the consultant. So I'm fine with it. I very well, you know, I think you did a really good job in writing what is a fairly convoluted bill, but you've been living with it for 4 years. So
A
David,
shared experience.
okay, so we got, it's the 650 and then it's down to 480 because of paying for this. I'd love to have it be 25, but I think at this point, it is what it is, and we can push DFR to try and do it for a lot less.
Does it have to be a consultant?
yeah, I mean, it has to be independent.
Okay.
And I think we want a quality job here. you know.
Yeah.
There's enough controversy around this program that it would be good to have someone who's independent, not biased, and who can analyze this program. So I think it should probably be a consultant.
Okay.
I just want to, I want us to make sure it's a non-biased consultant.
I think
Because,
independent is
Yeah,
the intent is clear. Okay. Now we'll go on to the study.
Sure. So 2B is new in concept. So again, the charges to DFR to contract with an independent consultant, study and report on the effectiveness of incentive programs to attract new workers and new remote workers in meeting the demographic challenges and workforce shortages that exist in Vermont. So B says to the Agency of Commerce, they need to make available to the consultant any data and information that's necessary to assess the administration and outcomes of the programs that we've had. So that includes really all three, to the
right.
extent we have that data: new worker, new remote worker, and this most recent iteration in this act. And C, the charge is by December 15th of this year. And the charge is actually to the department to deliver a final report and any recommendations for legislative action. And that way, maybe department can do some more of the work and save some money on the consultants. And be the face for whatever comes out of this. It will go to both your committee, Commerce Committee, and both appropriations committees.
Was there any discussion on A? I mean, I think I know what they're, I assume one of the major things they want to get at is the effectiveness of this program, but it says report on effectiveness of incentive programs. I mean, is that like every economic development tool in the world that they're going to check? You know, VEPC and all of that?
I think A read with B is intended to assess the multiple programs that Vermont has in this effort of attracting new workers. And that's all I got. Has there been discussion? There's not a lot of discussion going on lately.
It's probably not worth dwelling on or changing, but I would have concerns if you heard in the drafting of this that they wanted this consultant to start surveying the world of incentive programs.
I've never heard anybody suggest as much. No, it's
Okay.
again, it's been my understanding that it's limited to our history of programs.
Okay. Okay. That looks good. Any other questions on that? Okay. We could-
Three is the same. Four, the only change in four is that the money is actually in the budget rather than in this bill. So just using the same construct that H-159 uses, it cross-references the subdivision of the budget bill that includes the live appropriation for these $400,000 expenditures. So the three of them are the same, the money's the same, just the actual appropriation itself is in the budget.
Yeah. I mean, for consistency purposes, if we knew where we were going to end up, this probably would have been just another section in 159, right?
Probably, yes. You can still put it there if you want to.
And just make more work and controversy. But this is, so other than the way it was in the original version of S62, it was sort of their original construct where their House Appropriations Committee let them appropriate independent of the budget bill. And now it's turning out that all these monies are in the budget bill. So we're just cross-referencing the budget bill at this point. But
Exactly.
the same substance and the same amounts, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That's it, huh?
That is it. Yeah.
Boy, took
Easy.
a lot of service to get there. Right, Senator Clarkson?
Yeah, oh my God, don't even, yeah. But
I know this is a fundamental question, but I assume that the numbers have been reconciled between the budget and the bill.
Every 30 minutes.
Okay.
I'm not kidding.
I just got an email I haven't read from Senator Kitchell. So, yeah, we've been going back with Stephanie and, keeping them informed of what we agreed to. I mean, for the most part, the budget writers have been pretty deferential to us in terms of the amounts for these programs.
no, we have, I mean, other than they're giving us a very tight box for
Right.
159, they've given us lots of latitude.
Okay. So, I guess we're done with that. Now we can go to 159.
Thank you, David, for your work on this. And so when, David, do you expect them to be on the floor with this?
I have no idea. I think they're coming back to the floor at 6 o'clock, but I have not heard a single word about the plan or the schedule or anything.
Okay.
So they're coming back because they also at the same time will be dealing with 79.
No, I think that's tomorrow. I think 79 was on the notice calendar.
Oh, I didn't check.
62 is on the action calendar. And you're saying that you haven't been called or you haven't watched it happen yet in the House. Okay. Okay, so if we could go to 159.
So, and Michael, Jane
Yeah.
just sent me a note. Did
Right.
Jane also send you a note asking if Marcotte signed off on the 159 language?
He asked me one question and I wasn't able to answer. I wrote him back saying, as soon as we're done here, I'll answer him, but it's a pretty innocuous
Okay,
question. Yeah.
okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, I will pull up 4.1 of your H-159 language. And
And David, where is that?
it is in the
Did
ether
you
of
email
cyberspace.
Did you email that or send it to Nathan to post?
Let's email that to your committee.
Thank you, Mucho.
And this should all look pretty familiar. The only thing that is different from 3.1 is that subdivision 4 down in the economic recovery grants. I don't know, do you want to just kind of scroll through the whole thing one last time, or?
Not, well, just the changes, yeah, we did it already. I mean, I think other than we got stuck on number 4 and we just decided to remove it for the time being. So I'm ready to do a straw vote. We have to clear up this last thing with Representative Marcotte. And I want to check in with Pro Tem and some other folks. So I think a straw vote is where we're going to wind up today. If you want to give me,
Why don't we get set on
give me 2 minutes to clean up this last issue. It has to do with, and maybe David can help us with this question. Hi, Michael. Just one question on page 23, line 15B, the appropriation. Why do you want to tie the use of the funds to COVID when it is general funds dollars? And I wrote back, I'm not sure. And I'm in committee right now. We'll check it out when we are done. As I've said, it's been hard for us to follow what the funding sources have been for each item. So David, what's page 23, line 15B?
That's just sort of always been there.
Well, I mean, what program are we talking about?
This is the seed capital funds. And
Okay, and it's general fund dollars?
it is general fund dollars.
Yeah, that's always been there, and we were trying to help businesses that were having trouble starting up or focusing it on COVID. I don't know. David Bradbury didn't object to it. It's, just like we're doing in a lot of places with BIPOC. I think we're trying to focus dollars towards people who are hurting from this. I don't know. I'll leave it to a group decision what you want me to write back.
I mean, that's one option, but it looks like it's written for stressed startups for one reason or another, which seemed to be the point. It says they have reduced business, economic disruption from new business formation or an unmanageable increase in new business. I mean, it seemed to be trying to help startups that are in some way affected by the pandemic. Either they're trying to capitalize on a need or they were trying to form in the pandemic. So that makes sense to me.
Okay. On the other hand, this fund has been sort of totally depleted, and it's been looking for this money, pandemic or no pandemic. David, is it true that this is the language that they sent to us?
I believe that this language is verbatim from the very original VSET proposal back in October.
Yeah, this is not changed. I'm pretty sure this is unchanged.
I'll say this language is probably here because originally they actually tried to tie this to CARES Act,
Right.
and that didn't work. And then came back to ARPA funding, and I'm guessing it's just a vestige of that complicated history. So I don't know that it's intentional or necessary. It's really just a policy decision at this point, whether you want to tie it to COVID or not.
I'm not sure I care. I mean,
Right.
I could write back to him saying, if you guys care about this, we can change it. But this is what we were said from the very beginning, and no one ever objected to it. And my understanding is this has not maybe back when it was a CARES proposal, but this year, I think it's always been general fund. It
Yeah.
hasn't. We tried to move it to ARPA, and JFO wouldn't let us.
Right.
So,
Early on, that was messaged. So it's been in general fund dollars for a long time.
Okay, so why don't we take a straw poll, assuming we'll work this one out one way. It doesn't seem people care much. And I'll get back to Mike, and we'll probably, and then I want to have a couple of conversations. So my guess is that we'll do a formal vote first thing tomorrow morning, unless people have stomach for coming back later.
Either way.
I'm easy either way. Becca, do you need it out this afternoon?
No, because we can always put the language, make sure the language is in the budget. I'm not concerned about that.
Right.
I may raise one point, Mr. Chair.
That's another thing. I need to get back to Jane about putting the possibility of what her time frame is in terms of putting it in the budget, and whether, there's pros and cons of putting in the budget, but the result is the same. Go ahead, David.
Well, the only question I wanted to raise, and it's because of your conversation earlier, the last hearing was about the capital investment grants, the amount of that funding, and the challenge grants, because nobody seems to quite know who has agreed to what and whether that number.
I think we straightened it out.
Oh, good. All right,
I
great.
can explain it to you
Straighten it all out.
and to the.
Never mind then.
Okay, well, I'll explain it anyhow.
Okay,
Very, very briefly. I think it was just a budget item. It was never in 159, but somehow it became a discussion of the governor's economic proposal. He had started out at 3 million. We went down to 1.9 million, and the House, I think, had agreed with him at 3 million. And we went down to 1.9 to mirror what the successful grantees got, the 4 successful grantees. And they came back and said 2.3, because that's what the successful grantees really needed. They didn't need 3 million, but they did need 2.3. So that became a subject of negotiation last night. And when they offered to us to find that money in one of the bigger pots, because we
On the
had
capital investment.
capital investment, we said fine, because we just had to stay within our range. So the capital, you'll see in this bill, I think you'll see that the capital investment went down to 10,580,000, and this went up from our 1.9 to 2.3, 200,000. So that's how that happened, and the appropriators know all about it. Okay. It was.
They just can't find the language, and they're just having a hard time finding the language. But we
Yeah.
never had it.
There was a lot of language with it. I just can't remember where we saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to pull you guys up on the screen here, and I'll make a motion on a straw vote that we approve draft. What is it, David?
4.1.
4.1 of H159, with that one section to be determined by the House. All those in favor, just raise your hand. Thank you all. Okay, so let me, what I would do, if we want to meet again this evening, I won't meet without everybody present, and I will give you notice, and you could tell me, go fly a kite, and we'll see you at 8:30 in the morning. So it's been a long haul. We're getting close. A lot of our big issues, I think, have been resolved, though. And Senator Brock,